Yes, guys, what's going on? Welcome to Stretford Paddock. I am Adam McCullough, and today I am joined by a couple of legends. You usually see me sat by them or with them on the kickoff, and they've jumped on Paddock today. Of course, Rory is with us, and Loz is
Rory
in the
gets
house.
top billing. Fair enough.
I saved you till last. I saved you till last.
No, you want that, Lawrence. He's done it the right way round because it's the equivalent on a film. You know, when they come up and starring, you get the and. That's what you want.
Guest starring.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's a shame. That's a shame. Welcome back to the Kickoff Extra, guys. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, we'll get a name for this somewhere. Obviously, a huge game this weekend. Liverpool versus Manchester United. We'll be together watching it. I'm already dreading this one. It's the usual mixture of confidence, nerves, excitement, shitting yourself, everything in between. From a Liverpool fan's perspective, Loz, how are you feeling going into this one?
As a Liverpool, like someone who's, I genuinely grew up hating Manchester United, and like all my mates supported Manchester United, obviously because I lived in the Midlands, and like I was the only Liverpool fan, and so I had to put up with all this time of like Liverpool being what Manchester United have been for a couple of years now, which is like this lost sort of, we don't quite know where we are, we don't quite know if we're good, we think we're on the cusp of something, and then sort of goes away. You know, there's these youngsters that we love, but we don't know if they're capable of winning us anything. From a Liverpool fan's perspective, it feels very sort of sudden that Manchester United are now in this position. And so normally at the beginning of the season, you sort of go, I remember sort of being like, right, so Manchester United will be there. And then it was like everyone else. And you sort of worked out where you fitted around them. Whereas now it feels as if Liverpool are in that position. So it feels a bit of a strange position to be in as a Liverpool fan. Because also for years, we've been able to do the thing that you are now doing, which is we're just the gutsy underdogs who aren't meant to be here really. And like, you know, if we win it, we win it. And if we don't, oh, never mind. But they're really good anyway. So for years, we had nothing to lose. Whereas now we are the guys who have got allegedly something to lose because we've got that title team. We've got we've got the reputation. And that feels a very strange position that I'm not sure that this Liverpool team or B, the Liverpool fans are particularly keen on right now.
I was about to, do you think that title or that, you know, it's almost, you know, that mentality now could affect, you think it could impact the players, especially when you have lost some of the key ones that I mean would be massive leaders in the dressing room?
I mean, I did always say this for a while. It's a bit like having a new manager bump when you first lose a leader from the team, because the team sort of go, right, we need to make up for this now. This guy's not on the pitch, so we need to go out there and do that. And I think we said it on the kickoff ages ago. It was like when we lost Virgil van Dijk, that was a huge blow, but not immediately. It was at this point in the season. I remember saying January will be a really key time because that's where you go, right, okay, well, the endorphins you get from being a centre back instead of being, you know, midfield in Fabinho or whatever is very different. You don't get that kind of same buzz, and you're just like, right, well, I'm just centre back now, and that changes a role in the team. And so I do not having Van Dijk out there is massive for Liverpool, because not only do you lose a great player, technically you also lose a leader, and we're in a weird position where it's like, shit, how do we deal with the fact that we are favourites, but we don't have all the things that made us favourites?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation to be in. Although, you know, it's kind of like you always want these games to come along when you're in that, because the old cliche form goes out the window, and if you win it, it just lifts you straight back up. Rory, from the outside looking in, or someone as a neutral, I would say, are you a neutral in this situation? Do you consider yourself a neutral? Do you want a particular team to win? But who do you think, you know, has the edge going into this one? Because you're looking at a team with the best home form in the country, in Europe, and you're looking at another team who's got a pretty decent away run over the last 12 months.
Yeah, I'm feeling so excited for this. I'm in the most privileged situation because this game is massive. It's so exciting. I think it'll be a good one. There's obviously been so many cagey affairs between the two clubs over the years, but I think this is going to be good. I think this one will be electric. And I'm in the best position of all because I don't really have a dog in the fight, and I can just enjoy it for the spectacle that it is. And I think Lawrence's assessment there, I thought, was actually bang on. He said, because we're favourites, but we don't have any of the, or we don't have a lot of the, we don't have a lot of the ingredients that made us favourites. And I think that's true. I think that Liverpool are favourites. I think going into the game, the vast majority of people would see Liverpool as being favourites. But for me, I don't know if it's your influence on me, Adam, but I've seen something in this United team. And United have now become, obviously, I've kind of reassessed slightly because I've written the league off. I've just given it to Liverpool pre-season. But they've had so many unlucky and unfortunate events that I feel like it could be a stage too far for them. And there's something in this Manchester United team at the moment. They've kind of, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'd say they've kind of fluked their way to being favourites in my eyes. I feel like now Manchester United, they have that element, that thing that you need, that it's almost unquantifiable to tell you exactly what it is. Maybe, it's the stuff that isn't tangible. It's the belief. It's the enthusiasm. It's the desire. And it all feels like it's falling into place for Manchester United. And I feel like United are going to win it.
This game or the title?
I would say, I think United are going to win both. I think United are going to win this game. And obviously, this is a season-defining match. It won't decide the title, but it will be a very significant factor on where the title ends up. And
so you think Manchester United they're nailed on, is what you're saying, Rory? They're nailed on. They are my team. You can say this out, please, Rory.
No, nailed on. I will not be bullied or coerced into saying nailed on, but I will say that they are. Do you know what it was? Do you know what tipped me into thinking that there's something very special about the way that United are playing at the moment? And it didn't even happen during a match. It happened after the game. I think it was when you played Villa at home.
Oh, it was Bailly, wasn't it? And everyone was going over there and
the Bailly block and the celebration. Just the celebrations reminded me. I mean, there was a game where Chelsea won the league under Mourinho first time round. We played at Ewood Park and we won 1-0. Robin scored and Robin actually broke his foot that day. But we won the league. That game was in February, but we won the league that day. Just the belief, the celebration with the fans, all the players were throwing their shirts into the crowd. And at that moment, I saw something in the players. I thought we're going to win the league. And I saw something very similar in the Manchester United players after that Villa game.
I do think a lot of that was to do with Eric Bailly himself. Because he made the block. And I think he's had such a hard time.
Wasn't it?
It was, but I think he's had such a hard time, that I think a lot of people went to him. You hear about him in the dressing room. He speaks like every language in the dressing room. So he's a good communicator between all the different groups. And I think it genuinely was an outpouring of love for him. But at the same time, I do see that confidence building in Manchester United. But it's such a fragility to it. And we've seen this team so many times, look like world beaters for 10 games and then just lose the game that you don't think they're going to lose or drop points that you don't.
I think when you're involved, I think it's hard because you're talking about fragility. You're top of the league. Haven't you taken like 31 out of 35 points? It's very weird to use the term fragility when you're talking about a team that has amassed that record. You're top of the league. This is only the second time ever that this fixture has been contested in the Premier League between 1 and 2. So I think that I'm surprised because the famous banner at Old Trafford, the not arrogant, just better. I'm surprised we're not seeing a bit more of that.
I think there's a little bit of realism there that Manchester United fans understand that this has probably come a season early in the process, if you want to use that phrase. I think we all expected Manchester United to close the gap on City and Liverpool this year, or for something that would identify progress is that points gap closing. Now, what you've seen is Liverpool have probably dropped as many points as we've gained this season. So then there's been a good turnaround, but it's without that, I don't think we do, if it's a 90-point season, I don't think we're anywhere in the mix. It's become more of a 90s season in the Premier League where you probably can lose 4 or 5 games in a season and still win the league. I think that's what's helped United get in there. And then because of that, and because of the runs we can go on, we're starting to think something's possible if Liverpool. I still think City are the favourites, though.
I think this game could make City favourites. If Liverpool were to get a result away at Anfield, then we would put City in the driving seat because they could go above both teams with the games in hand. And I think you know what, though? City have very quietly done that. It's been a stealthy climb up the table. but they're not the box office team that Liverpool and Manchester United are. It's not a dig on that side. It's that if we put Man City in a title right now, they don't get the same views as Liverpool or Manchester United do, and it means that they don't get the clicks. They don't get, so they can sort of go under the radar in many ways because a lot of people choose to ignore them. And you know what? I think the real chat is about the credit that probably needs to go to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I know we're going to do a deep dive on this on Sunday with Brian and everyone else. But like, I get the criticisms of him earlier on in the season, but I think he also needs the credit for what's gone on in the league, and to have turned it around so quickly and harnessed probably a lot of what was negative energy against Manchester United. A lot of people being like, "You're terrible." I wonder how many times he hung up a headline in the dressing room or showed players something and went, "See how they don't believe in you. See how these guys think that you're shit.
You know what?
See how
well, on that
we're
point,
terrible."
On that point, that's another reason why I think Manchester United could be on for a
fire
win.
In them.
Well, because also, though, when you think about the amount of times that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has had his back against the wall and it's felt like he needed a win to preserve his job, whenever he's been in that exact situation, he's pulled it out of the bag. And although this isn't that situation, this is effectively a cup final. This is everything on the line. Go to Anfield and let's do it. In these one-off games, his record is very, very admirable.
I think the winner of this should get the Carabao Cup.
As long as Tottenham don't get it, I don't mind.
I think
that's a great suggestion.
It's just, we don't care what you've done in the tournament. This is bigger than that.
Yeah, well, more people would watch it as well.
More people watch it. More people will watch it. Yeah. Carabao should just literally, instead of doing a whole tournament, just sponsor specific games throughout the season, and that would be the Carabao Cup final. Exactly. Yeah, you should be like a constant rotating title. That the Carabao Cup is one week it can be with Liverpool, the next week it's in fucking Tottenham, and like then at least everyone gets their go with it. Do you know what I mean? And so it'd be such good PR. All these teams would just they'd be like, "We won the Carabao Cup. No, we won it. It would be so good."
It's like that mini, in rugby, you've got the Calcutta Cup that is played between only England and Scotland. Like nobody else competes.
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing. We should burn a lot of Carabao, put it like sprinkle it into a little thing, and call it like the Cashes or something like that, and then whoever can win it, that'd be amazing.
Very good.
Yeah.
But no, look,
I'm
really
like a bull.
Pardon?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying burn a bull. I'm definitely not a live bull. I'd never advocate animal cruelty. I'm talking about burning some cans or melting it down.
No, I have no idea why I know this, but Carabao, there's a guy. Carabao is a guy called Johnny Carabao, who is like a rock star from Thailand, who started the drink.
Because we worked at the same company, and during that time, we received so many briefs where Carabao said to us, "This is our backstory. How do we tell this?" And we went, "That's a terrible backstory. Don't tell anyone.
No one cares. Create a new one. Invent one.
Lie, because that's not a story." Yeah.
But you know what? On this game though, like the magnitude of this fixture, it's so exciting, isn't it? Like I know that the games have often been a damp squib, but going into this game, you just think this is it, isn't it? This is the two linchpins of British football, two of the biggest clubs in Europe, competing at the top of the table for the first time in ages. First time since, I think, 97. Because the one that you always think was the big clash. Do you remember this one? Do you remember the Gerrard? Right. That's the one. That's the one everyone thinks was 1 and 2.
What was the score there? What was the score on that day?
4-1 Liverpool, wasn't
it? Liverpool did go top of the league, but then.
But Chelsea were second that day.
I can't recall who won it.
No, but going into that fixture, Liverpool were third, so it wasn't quite the 1 and 2 clash. I think the last time they were 1 and 2 was 97, when Liverpool should have won the league that year. That was the first time. And Liverpool ended up finishing 4th, basically because of David James being so rubbish. But that was the first time I ever heard finish. When they say finishing 4th in a 2-horse race. That's what Liverpool managed to do that year. So this is it. This fixture. This is a moment in history. This is going to be massive.
By the way, it's also incredible because it's also possible that Liverpool could, if things go wrong, finish the weekend in like 5th or something. So they could go from being in this position to being 5th. Now, I know this season's so much more compressed, so you could go from 1st to 5th, I reckon, at some point this season. Like there will be a point where someone starts the weekend there and finishes outside the Champions League spaces. And we know that it's the marathon, not the sprint. So, there will be points where you look ahead of you. There's going to be people ahead of you in the race. But I also think that part of the problem is Liverpool fans had it in their head, and there has got to be a bit of a change of mentality at this point, that we would be ahead of people, and we would be looking back on people and going, 9-point gap, 12-point gap, something like that. And so being in this position almost means a bit of a shift for Liverpool, and I think for the players as well. And it's got to be acknowledged, like Liverpool have dropped a lot of silly points this season, and done a lot of silly things. I don't quite get. We'll talk about it on the kickoff, but I don't quite get this whole penalty thing. I'm not sure why it's such a big thing. I think it's probably because it's good for headlines. But
do you think Klopp is taking the threat of United seriously when you hear him kind of talking about things like that? Because he started early. I think as a United fan, I never expected him to be speaking about us. Not yet. I also think Klopp realises Liverpool are in a different position here. And for some strange reason, he is being more aggressive this season. And it's a real shift in his personality, or the real shift in the way he's seen. He's been aggressive about 5 subs. He's been aggressive about Manchester United. He's been openly quite combative. And I do think that's part of is what? I don't think he's rattled. What I think it is I think he's conscious. I would say that if I hadn't just seen him win the league. Kevin Keegan was doing that when he hadn't won something. So the reason I think he's changing is because he realizes there needs to be a change of tone within the Liverpool team. You can't just have the same tone and the same build for 5 to 7 years. There does have to be a key shift. So you can't just stay at one tone of sort of this, nice public friendly guy. I actually think he's being openly a bit more aggressive. It's interesting. Got something to lose now, haven't you? And I think as defending champions, you've kind of, like, we've seen how difficult it is for teams to win it back to back, and you've kind of got to take. Now you've got something to lose. You've kind of got to fight people off, and I think he has to take that. But I have seen something in him where, he does seem a little bit more annoyed, and you would be when you're losing some of your key players and you're dropping silly points and you're getting asked silly questions in the media and all that. You're going to lose your head, but he always seemed.
There's a lot of things though. Klopp says a lot. Like Klopp loses his head very regularly on the sideline and after a game, and will very regularly, I think, say something silly. But it's just the difference is most of the time Liverpool have been able to cover it up with wins. So people go, well, they won. So of course he can say what he wants, sort of thing. But then when you aren't winning, you can't have that same lack of composure. But the way he explains it is, he's like, well, I lose my head during the game, and then afterwards I do this. It's the same way that he sort of excused Frank Lampard and what he did when Lampard got a bit aggressive towards the bench. And he excused his guys the same way. He went, it's the heat of battle almost. And so he sort of just throws it away. And I think in England, we don't do it like that. We're sort of, no, that's not how we do the press here. We hold you to account in some way because we can't be bothered with the politicians.
Yeah, I have no issue with the way that I think Klopp pushing back, and sometimes pushing back fairly vigorously to the press is actually something that if he were a Chelsea manager, I'd be keen on. I like the fact that Frank Lampard has that element of spite in his character. And I think if you look back through all of the greats, I mean, plenty at your club as well, Adam, they all have that. Fergie did talk to the BBC for about a decade. Like, they all have that in them. So I've got no real issue with it. But I think that for the first time, maybe Klopp, I think it is fairly significant that he chose to flag that penalty thing. Like, it does feel like United are on his mind. If nothing else, United are suddenly a feature in his school of thought.
It's a strange one because also I feel like he gets briefings on social media or something, because whenever I see something doing the rounds in like the Liverpool football fan sphere, it's almost like he mentions it in a post-match press conference, or sort of, when he's standing in front of that. Honestly, I feel like someone's going, Jurgen, look at this. Like, you should and he's got a son or something that's going, Dad, look at that. Like, and then he thinks,
he might have a kid. That's how Pep saw him Fraudiola, didn't he? He mentioned it in a press conference, and you kind of like, whoa, did he just say that? Yeah. And you must think, like, if they've got young kids and stuff like that, because you even hear Sir Alex talking about Patrice Evra's Instagram videos, and you think Fergie's not on Instagram, but these guys all have grandkids and kids and that. They're just sticking the videos in their faces.
Do you think Liverpool play Henderson at the back again, Loz?
No,
that was good. That was the next question. Great stuff, Rory.
You two, you pincer motion. I see what you're doing.
We like York and Cole.
Yeah, exactly. You're telescopic, mate. I think it's. I don't think they'll play Henderson at the back. I think Liverpool need a bit more bite in midfield. I think we're likely to see. I can't remember if Wijnaldum's fit. I think he is. I think we'll see Henderson, Wijnaldum, and Thiago in midfield, and we're likely to see Fabinho at the back. I think Liverpool are going to want Thiago in midfield because it's going to be such a battle. I don't know. It'll be interested to see if someone like Curtis Jones plays in this game, because it's a bit like, look, you're a Scouser, you know what this means, sort of thing. But I just do think, in a way, Klopp is going to want to be like, yeah, here's why we can win the league. It's Thiago. Here's why we can win the league. I've got this. I think they're, weirdly, we're being quite bombastic about Shaqiri this week. So I can almost guarantee that he won't start the game. And then Joel Matip, I don't think they'll risk him. But Klopp has had this tendency every now and again to go, oh, he's just about fit, throw him in, see what happens. So it could be Fabinho and Matip. And that would change the way that Liverpool play, because Fabinho and Matip are both capable of bringing the ball out. And I think Henderson, whilst he is capable of that, was exposed a bit at centre-back.
I'd love if we rushed Matip back. I think that would play into our hands a bit. If he's not ready, if he's fit, then, that's fine. But I think if we rushed him back with the pace that we have and all that, I think we could definitely cause them problems. Rory, as a neutral, where do you think this game's won?
Well,
at Anfield, mate.
Yeah, Anfield, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll win the league at Anfield, don't we?
Yeah.
What I think will be the deciding factor is how Liverpool's front three play, because I think it's fair to say, and I think it's fairly easy to understand and process why it's not looking good for Liverpool at times at the back. So if we use the Southampton game as a case study, at the back, Liverpool looks a bit all over the place, but that makes sense. That it's obvious reasons why. What doesn't make sense to me is why they look so disjointed up front. So I think what will be the deciding factor is if Liverpool's front three click, get it going, play as well as we know they can, Liverpool will probably win the game. But if they don't, then I think it's there for Manchester United. Why have they not been playing? I don't understand what's gone wrong up front.
Well, so Liverpool have needed a bit of a rush from behind. I definitely think that there's something. Salah and Mane both aren't firing at the moment, and it's a bit of a strange one. Firmino, I actually don't think Firmino's been that bad, if I'm quite honest. I think it's because his role is such a strange sort of connecting role that happens all over. He's spread quite thin, so you never see him doing one thing. Whereas with other players, it can be quite obvious to a neutral. You'd be like, oh, Salah does this, Mane does this. Firmino goes from sort of the halfway line right up until the goal line.
Yeah.
So I don't really have such a problem with him. I don't think they've been connecting with him as much, which is why having someone like Shaqiri come on, I don't think we'll see Shaqiri start, but I do think we'll see him come on at some point. And I think Liverpool also feel they build from the back. That's why Van Dijk's so important. The ball would so often go to Van Dijk and everything would sort of fan out from there. And it allows you to press higher. That high press this season has been really important to Liverpool, and they just haven't been able to do that. So I do think that's part of it. Losing both centre-backs is a huge thing for Liverpool. You can't. There's not as much building, and the system for Klopp does rely on good centre-back centre-backs who can handle the ball.
What do you fear from United, Loz? Like in terms of, you hear Cavani or Marshall or both will start. You hear in midfield, is it going to be Fred or McTominay or Pogba? And like, what do you not want to see starting for Manchester United?
I would not. I don't want to see Mark Clattenburg refereeing. That would be a problem. You know what? I think there's so many different threats. It comes down to Bruno Fernandes is obviously incredible. That's why I think they'll need Henderson and Wijnaldum, because I think you'll basically see Wijnaldum pretty much shadowing him the whole game. You need Henderson in there because Pogba's playing. You need someone who's able to be physical. And I don't mean that in a reductive term. I mean, Pogba has got such a presence around the team. You need someone who's able to sort of get into him and be able to be like, right, let's push this guy out of the game. And then it worries me because I got to admit, I think Trent just doesn't enjoy people running at him. So Rashford is always going to be a worry for Liverpool. And then when it comes to strikers, I mean, you could start whoever and Liverpool would look worried right now. I mean, Cavani might be, I'd almost rather see Cavani though than Martial, because at least with Cavani, I'm like, Well, it's mainly because I think Fabinho looks at Cavani and goes, South American. we're going to have a little fight here. Whereas he looks at Martial and goes, I don't know how this works. And if I'm honest, I really love the hookup play from Martial, but it will be interesting because what I don't want to see, and he is going to start, is I don't want to see both your centre-backs who have been in such good form recently, because Liverpool are going to put crosses in and Harry Maguire and Bay are just going to go, nope. Like that, for Liverpool, they need to see some weakness there. And, I think we're going to have to see Liverpool attack through the middle, which is why Thiago needs to start. He's going to put all those little reverse balls in. We're going to have to beat United at their feet. You can't beat them in the air. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens there. And then fullback wise, start whoever you want, because I think it's going to be Rashford and those guys are probably going to be trying to run past Liverpool players. It's not going to be a cross, is it?
Does Pogba start? Do you think, Ad?
This is what I'm not sure, because his form's so good recently. If it was 3-4 weeks ago, I remember us having the convo on me saying, like, in the big games, he's always going to go McTominay, Fred. But I've seen less of that recently. Fred hasn't played in a week. Whether he's been saving him for this game or he's just not been fit enough to play, I'm not sure. But I do think Paul Pogba will play now. So that it comes down to how many of Matic, Fred and McTominay does he play? Is it just one of those or is it two of those? Because we could play the 4-2-3-1 and he puts Pogba like in the left wing kind of position, which would then see Rashford go over to the right, which probably isn't great because you want to keep Rashford up against Trent, I think.
You don't want him against Andy Robertson.
Yeah, but he possibly could do that, or he could go with the diamond and play, Cavani, Rashford, or Martial up top.
I think it's smarter to do that because you don't want Rashford on the. I mean, Rashford will go to the right at some point. You don't want him on the right because then he's got Andy Robertson and Fabinho. You want him to be on the other side where he's focusing on the weaker side, surely.
Yeah, I mean, of course I think he should play up against Trent, ideally, but in Ollie's attempts to either maybe get Cavani and Martial both in the team or to get Pogba into the team because he's playing so well, he may opt to, put Rashford out on the right where he has played in the last couple of games.
I also see what you're saying because you might want to stretch that Liverpool back line out. Actually, if you put Martial on one side or whoever's going to be putting the cross in on one side, put Rashford on the other. That stretches Liverpool's worry out. Put Rashford on the left. Really, what you would do from what you want to do against Liverpool right now is I've seen Liverpool concede a couple of goals from here, and I think I can't remember which game it was, but people want to get crosses in from Liverpool's right because you can cross easier against Trent, basically. And there's that space you've got in front of Trent where you can basically whip a cross in, and that's probably Liverpool's most vulnerable area, and especially also as you'll also be then putting a cross in against the defender who's probably weaker at heading the ball away. So you're probably are going to see Rashford on the right. I'm probably wrong about that.
I'm so nervous for this game, man.
It's going to be fantastic.
What have you guys got to lose?
I mean, we have got something to lose. I think, I was the only one really that was talking about us being in a title race about 2 months ago. But the reason I thought we had... Yeah, it was kind of like lighthearted. We need to get in this kind of, you never know what's going to happen this season. And when you've got people like Rory saying Chelsea are in a race here, you start thinking, well, if they're in a race, we have to be in a race. Do you know what I mean?
That was misplaced, though. I wouldn't use that as your... I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know. You've
got to find another motivation for getting... No, not that. You've got to edit that. You don't want to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's not... And now it's like... We've got a massive opportunity to do something. And I don't think people are looking at the importance of, if Liverpool win the league this year, it's fucking 20 all. Do you know what I mean? And no one's really talking about that.
And back to back, Ed. Like, back to back is so significant. Back to back is so huge. Like, I mean, I'm so full of admiration for you doing the 3 in a row twice. But back to back is huge. And I don't really care out of Liverpool, Manchester United, who win the league, really. But the only reason I would rather Liverpool didn't is because I don't really want them to get the back-to-back because it means so much. It actually starts to become generational. You start to be, when you look at football per decade,
all right,
someone's done it back-to-back in that decade. They almost already own that decade.
That's the problem, though, Rory. That's the problem is we also won the Champions League in the previous decade. So we will get forgotten as the team who won it on the cusp. And by definition of that,
But this
They can't
Liverpool
do that
team,
game,
this Liverpool team with a European Cup, and I'm talking about like not the exact team, but you know what I mean, like this generation of players. If they end up with at least one European Cup, a back-to-back league, and then maybe another league in a year or 2 or 3, that era suddenly becomes, you know, that's kind of the success that happened to the Liverpool that we're always hearing about previously. It was only to that level, which is huge.
You don't want to see them get it this season. You definitely don't. If Liverpool get it this season, because the worry would then be Liverpool due a bit of a rebuild or a bit of a rejig.
You're then on for a hat trick. Yeah, you're then on for a hat trick.
And then if Liverpool were to get an Mbappe, and I'm not saying Mbappe is coming, but he is. So I just think if Liverpool were to get a big name player like that in the summer, you know, say a French superstar that everyone loved, right? That would then change the whole dynamic, because then City would also have to do their rebuild, and Manchester United would feel they had to, you know, Jadon Sancho comes, God, it's going to be back to those guys.
The thing is, City, weirdly, I know they spend loads of money, but they spend it in a different way. Like, City aren't going to go and blow over 100 million quid on Haaland, which is effectively what they need to do, because they'll wait another year and get him when his contract's more run down and pay their usual kind of fee. So Liverpool are then looking favourites for the league if they were to make that signing. Also, any player in the whole world suddenly then wants to play for Liverpool. They're back-to-back winners of the Premier League, going through a rebuild with Jurgen Klopp at the helm. Oh, it changes the whole complexion of everything. And
in retrospect, actually, you have to win this. In retrospect, this is vital that you win this now.
It's decade defining.
Vital.
I called it season defining, but it's actually decade defining.
I'd say this is life defining, actually, Adam. This will define the rest of your life.
I don't think this is a good idea, to be honest. I wanted to do this to have a little chat with you, you know, ahead of the game and all that, and now I'm bricking it even more. It's not good. And these are the games that, you know, growing up, I used to always brick it over these games. Like, you can't, you know, you have this nervous energy, this excitement, this confidence. You just have a mixture of all these different emotions. You never enjoy the game unless you're 3-4-0 up, and that very rarely happens unless Sami Hyypiä gets sent off after 3 minutes. And like
Mascherano gets wrongly sent off.
Yeah, wow. He was a walking red card that day. Absolutely walking a red card. But like, this is a game that, you know, we've all had the emotions before, but never really has the game meant how you felt. And now your emotions match the magnitude of the game. It's just mental.
Do you know the big regret for me that schools aren't open now? Because the thing I hated most was if and it always happened, so I remember the sinking feeling that I got when Rio Ferdinand runs towards that corner after United have scored the goal, and he's like really going for it. And I was just like, oh shit. And it's not like we aren't going to win the league. It's like, I've got to go to school tomorrow. and everyone's going to be talking about this.
Yeah.
And that's what
that is the only thing, isn't it? It's a shame. Like, you want a packed Anfield. You want 3,000 United fans in that corner. It is a real shame.
That could really help.
You get nostalgic about this, and that's what's strange about it now. Is like, now I'm like nostalgic about having a rival somewhere, or like hearing an enemy and being like, yeah, we hate those guys. Now it's just like, yeah, we don't like them, but they're not there. So what do we not like now? Like, I can't see anyone to hate. So I'm just gonna have to punch the nearest United fan on Sunday. I don't know who that would be.
I don't reckon
you're gonna want to tune in for that.
Loz, if you're gonna punch anyone, and I say this with, I reckon your best bet is me.
Yeah, you say that, Rory, but and I get that. You say that. If I look to my right, I've got someone I'm definitely not going to punch. If I look to my left, I'm like, fancy my chances better over here.
Adam's clearly hard though. I reckon, honestly. Who's the guest?
What?
Who's the guest? Maybe you should invite a guest on who you can definitely beat up.
So that's definitely not happening.
What's I'm Alex up to?
Yeah, no. I think he's got a decent chance. The problem is, if there was a recasting of Fight Club on YouTube, Adam would definitely be one of those like guys. He's got those eyes that when you shine a light from above, they like go all shady.
It's actually, do you know what? When you think about it, the Stretford Paddock is probably the hardest, hardest YouTube channel. Stephen Howson is a warrior, and Adam McCullough's a lunatic. Like they're the hardest. They're the hardest.
I've got to admit,
Just
Rory.
stop saying these kind of things. We're going to be going around football stadiums, and people are going to be like, "Wait, you want a video? Say use like with the hardest." No,
Yes,
it was Rory,
they were.
and we're going to get chipped.
I have no control over what Rory says. So sorry.
The good thing for you is, Adam, the person saying that to you will be Louis Benevento. So probably one of the nicest men in all of football will be going, "Did you say you were the artist?" And you're like, "Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I did. Yeah." One of the nicest men.
Lads, it's prediction time. Rory.
Sorry, the connection went there. I think the call's cutting out, mate. I'm going to have to go.
I'm going to go for a Manchester United 1-0 win.
Wow.
Oh, I'd take that, obviously.
I bet you would.
Do you think it'd be a penalty, Rory?
Potentially.
Okay.
That'd be amazing. 90th minute Bruno penalty.
Imagine Klopp's reaction if there's a penalty. Ooh.
It'd be incredible. It would be. What I want is that it's like whoever wins it does. So even if Liverpool win it, they win it in a very jammy circumstance. I think United will score. So I think it will be like, I reckon it might be like a 2-2 in the end. And I think that isn't good for either of us. I think that's the point here. We're hyping this up and there will be goals in this game. I think we just play right into City's hands.
Yeah, City are the winners, isn't it, if it's a draw?
Yeah.
I'd take a draw right now, but I am feeling a little bit confident. I don't think we're going to have a better chance to beat you. So if we don't win, or we come out there and we've got beat and it's been easy for Liverpool, I think it'd be damaging for our mentality for the rest of the season. So I don't think the result is as important as the performance for United, and I think the result is more important for Liverpool. But I think we're going to win 1-0. And it shits me up. Yeah, I'll say 2-1 then.
May the best man win.
2-1. Cavani is going to enter folklore like Diego Forlan.
Right, I get that. That's actually a really good shout. The problem is I really like a lot of your players. Like when I saw Bailly celebrating, I was like, he seems like a good guy. Cavani seems like a nice guy. Like Rashford, obviously, love
the centre half that we needed as well. I think, like, everyone keeps talking about us buying one because he's always injured, but he is actually the one that we would buy.
He's your best centre back. He's world class.
Yeah, 100%. Just not world class availability and knees and
Tellez, do you say Tellez? Is Tellez?
I say Tellez. I don't know if that's right. That's what I say.
I think he's fantastic as well. I think he's really supremely watchable, and sort of he's one of those players where I'm like, oh, he worries me.
Yeah, you sound worried, Loz. Anyway, thank you for tuning in
I'm
today.
Just tired.
Make sure. No, we don't want to hear any of those excuses. Those real life excuses. We do not want to hear them. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, he did. Wow, you've seen what he's up to online these days. Jesus,
he's a young mum. That's all I'll say. What a beautiful young mum. He's beautiful.
Make sure you're checking out Rory's channel. The link is in the description below. Make sure you check out Loz on all the socials. Loz, do you have your own YouTube channel? You do, don't you?
I do actually. It's got one video on it of me visiting the Women's World Cup in 2019, I want to say. So yeah, thanks. Good luck on Sunday, everyone on watching Stretford Paddock. Genuinely, I love this game. I've really missed it being something where it made me feel like this. So enjoy it. Like this is what it's actually about this season. Yeah, and make sure you're checking out the kickoff as well. Over on Twitch now, I get DMs all the time like, why ain't it on YouTube? Because it's on Twitch. So make sure you check it out on Twitch. Yeah, I mean, use put it everywhere that it's on Twitch, so it's not. We're both so nervous. I genuinely I feel terrible for you in the same way as I'm sure you feel terrible for me.
I don't want to be this is a game I don't want to be at. When it was Liverpool Spurs and you two were taking strips off each other, and I could just sit back and just watch the game and just enjoy myself.
It's going to be me this week.
This isn't it. Unless, like I say, you're winning for 2-0 with the last 10 minutes to go. Even then, you're going to be shitting it. So
yeah, because you don't want to give away that lead, and it is possible in this game.
Yeah, exactly. So shitting it. But yeah, nice one, boys.
See you Sunday.
Cheers, lads.